Knock, knock. No, it's who's there, actually. Little joke for all you grammar pedants out there. Here's the Failing Writers podcast.
John, so you said you've got something that will amuse me to share with me.
Yeah, I know you shouldn't make fun of other writers, but...
Oh, I like it already.
I thought you might.
Hold on a minute, is it me?
Well, there's the downside. No, it's not you, Tom.
Crack on.
No, I just happened to find something online and it made me chuckle. It's real life bad analogies written by high school students. A whole bunch of them. Have you come across this?
No, but this is so up my street. Come on then, off we go.
So the first one, I thought, this is particularly nice. We're kicking off high here.
Yeah.
Her eyes were like 2 brown circles with big black dots in the centre.
Oh, that's romantic, isn't it?
Isn't that lovely?
Very descriptive, that, isn't it? Like, in a very just descriptive way.
Yeah. I like the use of the word like there because, you could have circumnavigated the word like.
In that they are.
In that they actually are.
Circles. Yeah.
But yeah, that was nice. And this is also nice. He was as tall as a 6'3" tree.
I like that, actually. That's quite Douglas Adams-esque, that, isn't it?
Yeah, you could say
that's that's very advanced writing, that.
It's hard to know with some of these whether the students are really taking the piss. I mean, I suspect they are.
Possibly. I mean, that does sound like the kind of thing I would have done in GCSE English when they're going, right, so you need to do it this way. Oh, do we? Do we?
We'll see.
Right. Well, then.
Her face was a perfect oval, like a circle that had had its 2 sides gently compressed by a thigh master.
Oh, that was a twist at the end. I was just about to say that's just over-explaining, but that added something, didn't it?
I think it did. You can see the shape of it better somehow.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Wow.
John and Mary had never met. They were like 2 hummingbirds who also had never met.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah. This is quite nice. She had a deep, throaty, genuine laugh, like that sound a dog makes just before it throws up.
Ooh. That's interesting, that one. Not to overanalyze these and put too much credence into their sort of literary depth, but it's like a backhanded compliment, isn't it? It's like on one hand saying, oh, lovely laugh, but it did sound like a Dalmatian hoying its lunch up.
Yeah, it's a nice little surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think I could see that sitting in a poem about falling out of love with someone, that you kind of appreciate that it's you that's got the problem, if you like, and she's got a lovely laugh, but it does sound like a dog throwing up, and now every time she laughs, I think of a dog throwing up. That's a me problem, not a... Wow, that's amazing. That's like a one-line poem. That's brilliant.
Nice.
I thought you said some of these were rubbish. These are brilliant.
He was as lame as a duck. Not the metaphorical lame duck either, but a real duck that was actually lame, maybe from stepping on a landmine or something.
Wow, okay.
Goes quite hard, that one.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's very much like the writing equivalent of just grabbing your head and making you look at something, isn't it? It's like they're not letting you go until they're like, do you understand? Do you understand this?
It's almost like they confuse themselves with that.
I like the way in that one, though, they kind of put one little step into the metaphor, but then jumped out of it. Like they just
that's right.
Dip the toe in the metaphor, but then you're not having that.
I really like this one. Her vocabulary was as bad as like whatever.
That's clever, isn't it?
It is.
Isn't that clever?
It's really lovely.
Yeah.
From the attic came an unearthly howl. The whole scene had an eerie, surreal quality. Like when you're on vacation in another city and Jeopardy comes on at 7 p.m. instead of 7:30.
Quite specific, isn't it, in terms of how unnerving that would be to different people?
I love how
that
phrase just lost all of its command at the end.
Yeah.
It's just, it was almost like, oh my God, it was as spooky as what? Oh, right, okay.
That's not spooky.
Just slightly.
Well, I think we've all learned something there, haven't we? Something we can add to our own writing there, something we can bring to the party.
There are lots of different ways to write.
And I think actually what we've shown there is that it doesn't matter what you write, if people put enough effort in, they can find some depth in it, generally, and bring meaning to it that maybe wasn't intended, and maybe writing could be perceived as being better than it actually is.
So should we move from the ridiculous to the sublime now?
Yes, let's, because CJ Tudor is back in the house, as I believe the cool
You're
kids.
so
The cool
cool,
kids.
Tom.
I mean, it's just the way I roll, John. Just the way. It's just my riz, isn't it? To be honest. Yeah. Off cap, or what, I don't know what they say. I've run out of in.
That's it. That's all we've got.
Dunno. But yeah, CJ Tudor. We just thought it'd be nice to catch up because it's been a while. We talked to her years ago in our first series, and she's been annoyingly successful since.
Yeah. What's the best way of describing CJ Tudor?
Is this going to be like one of the things we just covered here? She's like
Use a really bad metaphor.
a deer in the headlights, but not in the headlights. Like she's driving the car. She's a deer driving the car, and she's choosing when to put the headlights on. That kind of thing. Is that where we're going?
Yes, that's perfect, Tom. What a lovely description.
Well,
I think it's probably the best way to describe her is the way that Stephen King himself famously did, which is that she is basically Britain's female Stephen King.
wow.
Which I think sums it up very well. But she's written some belting page-turnery. I suppose what would you call them? Like
Books, I think.
books? Yeah.
If you forced me, if you said right, what I would say these are books.
What are these?
These are books.
Yeah, they're definitely books, but kind of
Chillers. They've all
supernatural
got
sometimes.
like an edge,
chillery,
edgy,
thrillery.
Yeah,
Stephen Kingy,
yeah.
but all quite different, but all threaded with. Kaz has a real kind of knack for very beautifully efficient prose. So yeah, we caught up with her again, and this is what it sounded like.
Welcome back to the Failing Writers podcast, CJ Tudor. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Because you're dead busy in Hollywood type things now, aren't you? And doing like I'm surprised you even dared to talk to us, really. Although I wonder, John, I don't know if this is kind of the upward curve of CJ Tudor's career seemed to take place very shortly after being on our podcast in that first season. I don't know if that's...
I'm not saying you shouldn't take any credit, but I don't think there is an upward curve in writing. I think it's more like there's ups and then there's downs and then there's ups and then there's downs. It seems to be a constant process of getting excited about something good and then being let down by something again.
Oh, really? That's interesting, isn't it? Because from the outside looking in, Kaz, your career just looks, like a stratospheric rise. It just with a bit more rise after that, and then a little bit more rise.
I think it's all perspective.
Yeah. From the inside, it's probably quite prosaic, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's all how you look at it. I always look at other writers and I think oh my God, they're doing so well. But I'm sure they will tell you they've had their fair share of ups and downs as well. So I think it's also how we present, isn't it, as well? Because we tend to talk about our successes more than our failures a lot of the time. It's all, oh my God, I have another book out. Oh, I have a book that's been made into a TV series. Look at me. It's all so good. And then you don't kind of perhaps, but we can talk about, all the disappointments, because there are obviously disappointments in between like good news and stuff. We tend to kind of trumpet the good news. Whereas I think like anything, it's not necessarily a linear kind of thing. I think, you have setbacks along the way.
So the setbacks now, do they affect you less because you're kind of on the upward curve? Whereas at the very start, a setback was like, oh my God, this is never going to happen.
Actually, yeah, I think, when my first book was published back in way back, all those years ago, in 2018, I think you're very sensitive when your first book comes out because it's your first book and, you're actually letting people read your writing. And so like every bad review is like a barb to the heart. And, I learned quite quickly to stop reading reviews because you can get quite obsessive about it. And yeah, I think you're much more sensitive to it all. And then when you're a few books down the line, you start to perhaps get a little bit more perspective. It's not to say like, disappointments and things and books that do better than others. You still feel that, but I think you're able to be a little bit more objective. And it's been a little bit weird because this last year was an awful year. It was a crap year. I lost my mum last year in June, and I was partway through a book that was already difficult to write because, and I've had this before because my mum hadn't been super well. And so I spent a lot of time kind of in hospitals and then in care homes and things. And so it was already sort of a compromised book that was way behind schedule. And then I lost mum, and I had to say to my publishers, I'm not going to get this finished in time. And if I try to get this finished in time for publication, which would have been this year, is going to be awful. And nobody's going to be particularly happy because life events happen and they throw you off course. So I basically said, look, can I put that again to one side? And I want to start something else, but could I have a bit longer to work on it? And so this year has been a strange one because I'm not publishing a book now till some point next year. And my publishers have been very kind and not even pinned me down to an exact date, which is very generous of them. As I've deliberately taken a bit of a step back from the whole publishing world, which is quite nice on one front, because you're like, oh, thank God I don't have to constantly beat myself up by reading about how well other people are doing. And you know, Richard Osman selling about 20 million copies and being at the top of the charts for like ever. And I don't have to read about any of that. But then you start to get the fear part way through, which I think I'm experiencing now, because I'm about 2/3 of the way through the new book, of like, oh God, everyone will forget me. I should be on social media. What if everybody hates the new book? Ah! So yeah, I'm at that state of anxiety at the moment. So it's all good.
It's various stages of anxiety.
Nice. I think with any kind of creative endeavour or writing, you have these weird kind of ups and downs. You have this desire sometimes. I think there's a big divide between the writing, which generally I love, although sometimes that can be a pain in the arse when you're having a bad. I've been sat for about a day now trying to rewrite one page essentially, and I think we're there. But the publishing, the business side of it, which I think a lot of writers, well, maybe some like it, but I struggle with it a bit. I hate, and it's a necessity because you have to think about sales and promotion and all of that. But it's the side that I like less.
It sounds like from what you were just saying, you've got a book that you were part way through and you've kind of put to one side for the time being and then started another project.
Yeah, and it's the second time it's happened because I'm not somebody who can plough on through when sort of crap stuff happens or big emotional upheavals happen. I'm very much kind of like a writer who's like, I can't write that because that's not where my head is right now.
Right.
I think maybe some writers can deal with that better, but I'm very much like, no, that I can't do that now because that's associated with all of that rubbish stuff. I want to do something fresh. And that's good. It gives you something, I think, to look forward to and focus on. But it doesn't mean that there's no book out this year. I've been a bit like, not retired, but just a bit back from everything. And I think it's continually like that with books and stuff. I mean, this one next year will be the 7th book. And with every book, the same anxiety as the first book happens, really, because each book is like a fresh start.
Oh, really? Same level?
Yeah, I think so. And actually a little bit worse sometimes because there's expectation. There's no expectation with your first book. No one's heard of you. No one can compare it to anything else. You have this lovely debut bubble and, people put you up for awards and forgive you things because it's your first book. Oh, bless it. They're a debut. And then nobody's that kind further on when you're in your 5th or 6th or 7th book. And yet you have the expectation of like not wanting to let people down. And, you don't want people going, yeah, but it's not as good as X book or the one before or the first one or whatever. So each book comes with those fresh anxieties and expectations, and you kind of have to push them away, obviously, and just crack on with it. But yeah, it's sort of all there, which is what I say about it not being a straight upward curve. I'm not sure you ever get to the point where you think, yeah, that's fine. I'm not worried. Every book will be brilliant. I don't really care what readers think. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe some authors get to that point, but I think you're always probably trying to outdo yourself, or at least kind of meet expectations.
Oh, bloody hell. To a certain extent, Kaz does make the whole thing sound like a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
In a way. I think like, oh, no, you can listen and go, yeah, I've changed my mind. I don't really want to do writing things anymore. It sounds it's quite hassly, yeah. Isn't it? So
that's maybe one nice thing about being a failing writer is all the low expectations.
Yeah, you never get thrust into any of that stuff.
Yeah, and your own expectations of yourself are very low as well. And that is actually quite nice.
Yeah.
It makes me think, I got so many lovely messages from various people about my little short story being published. And it was all because people's expectations of my success level is just, do you know what I mean? It's really low. If I'd already had a book published.
And then you got a little short story published, like, oh, yeah,
no one would have responded. Yeah, so it is very much, it's an expectation thing.
Does it get easier with all that, having the professional team around you that you don't have when you write at the start, or does that put more pressure on because you've got all these people waiting for what you do?
Yeah, again, it swings and roundabouts because yes, it's brilliant because when you're writing on your own, which is why I'm so glad I sort of never self-published, because I don't think I could have edited myself well enough, because you think you finished a book and then your editor gets it and reads it and then comes back and says, oh, I love it, I love this, I love the other. But and then 3 pages later, these are all the things that are wrong with it that you need to rewrite. And sometimes they're right. Mostly they're right because I've got a really good editor. And there are some things you might compromise on if you feel strongly about it. So it's quite a collaborative process. So yes, it is hugely helpful in the way of making books better? Of course it does. You know, editors who work in publishing houses are in big publishing houses for a reason, because they're very, very good at what they do. After you've worked with someone a few years as well, they tend to know you and your writing, and they know how to get the best out of you. And I'm sort of in that position with my UK editor. Interestingly, you know, we're actually out of contract in the US at the moment, because we decided after the last book not to stay with the publishers we were with. So that's another new nerve-wracking joy we have when this book goes out next year, that we will go out on submission in the US again. So again, that's exciting, but also terrifying.
What was the thinking behind that? Are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, I don't know whether I am or not, but I will. I think the thinking is that, you know, I had a lovely, lovely editor with my publishers in the US, and she's moved somewhere else as well. Right. So I wouldn't be with the same editor. And I think there's just perhaps that feeling that sometimes, if you really want a fresh start and a fresh push, you kind of have to change publishers. The authors do it quite a lot. It's not spoken about a huge amount, but a lot of quite successful authors remain successful by not kind of settling with the same publisher. Now, some publishers, my publishers in the UK, are very good. They're very, very supportive. But as I was saying recently, I was talking about this recently actually on Blue Sky, because it was London Book Fair last week. So there's all the excitement and clamour of, oh, there's a new book, there's a debut, there's a 6-figure deal here, there's a 7-figure deal here, there's an amazing debut. And like, this is great, you know, hotly contested auctions and everything. Because publishers do tend to throw everything at debuts. And yet, don't get me wrong, I was a hotly contested debut. It was great. It really set me up. But there's less support sometimes for the second, third, fourth, fifth book, because they're ploughing all that support into the next big thing. And some of those big things will not be big things, obviously. A lot of hotly contested auctions and hot new debuts fall by the wayside. A lot, because very few actually live up to the expectations. And it can be quite a brutal come down when you're sort of publishing your second book, and suddenly it's like, well, why haven't I got all these adverts in on the tube? And why haven't I got all this promotions? I know we spent all that on the debut. You don't get that anymore. So the thinking is that sometimes, not always, to get that kind of push again, you need to move to a new publisher, and you will be the bright new thing suddenly again. You will get more of a push. And you know, we've had success in the US. You know, don't get me wrong. You know, I've certainly known in the US, and the books do well. But you know, everybody would like a bit more, wouldn't they? I've still not clinched that NYT top 10 bestseller. I would love that. You know, I would love that bit more. We're always greedy for that bit more. So you know, the thinking's there that perhaps it's the right time to perhaps try a new publisher. Particularly with my editor having gone as well.
Yeah.
So yes, so that's what we're doing in the US, which is a little bit terrifying, and hopefully it will turn out okay. You know, you never know. You have to trust your agent on these things, because we're authors, we don't know anything.
Hopefully they do. Yeah. The abandoned book.
Yes.
Will you go back to that?
That really confused me, because I thought that was a title of one of that sounds.
It sounds like a CJ Tudor, yeah.
It could be a title, couldn't it?
The Abandoned. I thought it was called The Abandoned. I'm thinking, which one's that one? The Abandoned.
I could use that. I could use it.
Yeah.
We'll get back to it. Yeah, I might this one. I might kind of shorten it and compact it into a novella, which then might be a standalone, or I might do that within a collection of short stories, because I'd quite like to do another short story thing. So it won't be completely abandoned, this one, but it just needs a bit of space and maybe a bit of work to knock it into shape. But yes, I still quite like a lot of the premise, but I'm not sure it actually maybe would ever have worked as a full-length novel, perhaps. Maybe it needed to be compacted a bit. So yeah, it won't be wasted.
That's good.
I know another author who, you probably know, a guy called Stu Turton. We were talking about, you know, writing stuff and then it not working. But he was saying about his last book that he like deleted about 100,000 words. I was like, what?
He likes to do that, doesn't he?
He does
likes
that,
to,
yeah. We've talked about
to
that.
mass delete.
You don't keep them, because I'm a hoarder. No. I can't throw them away. You know, I even if I'm like, no, I'm not going to use that, I will save it somewhere, like a dusty drawer of stuff. I can't throw things away. Even if I only get like a few paragraphs out of something, I feel it's worth saving it somehow. But it's different writing styles. It's horses for courses.
It's obviously just because you're writing so good, Kaz. You've got to keep it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's that good, if every sentence is that good, why throw it away?
Yeah, right.
So, Tom, do you hold on to old drafts of things? Are you like a serial saver of the latest version of a project, so that you kind of end up with loads of different pointlessly stockpiled versions?
Yeah, I think I kind of am, really. I mean, I would be if I actually wrote enough to stockpile stuff. That, makes an image of like lots and lots of stuff. But no, I do. I think part of it is that I'm scared if I get rid of it, that at some point I might have to rewrite it. I go, oh, that bit, yeah, no, that character, or I'll start this one again or something, and I've got rid of it. I would actually have to do it all again.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when if you like you're doing I don't know, anything really, but like a short story or something, and you accidentally copy over it or delete it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the idea of doing it all again,
rewriting it. I think there's a real rose-tinted thing as well, is that you kind of assume hilariously that it was pretty perfect. Like you phrased that whole bit so beautifully. And
I'll never recapture that magic.
Impossible to get back.
Yeah. But then, like we were just saying in that with Kaz, and she was saying about Stu Turton, that's what it's literally how he operates. He's a first draft deleter. He just he thrives on that. So
but I think that's probably. I mean, I'm not saying do that. That's not my advice. But I do think that if you write something again, it's almost certainly going to be better. I mean, there might be elements of. Are
you not scared that you'll forget things though that were good?
Oh God, yeah.
And the idea that if it's important enough or good enough, you'll remember, doesn't cut the mustard. Like you think, no, I won't. I wouldn't though. I'd forget.
My memory's crap.
And then once it's been finished or released or sent off or anything, I go, oh God, I forgot the bit about the such and such.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I actually think that, because I've currently got like 8 versions of our play saved. Because I don't like the idea of anything despairing, but I'm definitely in your camp there, Tom. On short stories, Kaz, I've got a little confession. I've got a few of your books, but I don't own a copy of Sliver of Darkness. Actually, I love creepy short stories, and I was going to ask you, what is it about short stories though? Why is it so much harder to sell a book of short stories, even to someone like me who loves them?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't really. I don't get it. But there is an issue there. I don't know whether it's like psychological.
No, it is a weird thing. Psychologically, I think it is harder to get people to buy books of short stories unless you're like Stephen King. And everyone just buys his books regardless. And I started off reading short stories. I think I started reading a lot of short stories before I was reading sort of novels in a way. But I don't know, do people feel like they're not getting as much, or they're being cheated, or they just have something? I honestly don't know, because I really enjoy reading short stories, and I've got loads of short story collections, I guess, of my favourite authors. So maybe that's the thing. Perhaps if you're going to read an author for the first time, you perhaps maybe don't start with short stories. The short story collections I've got are of authors that I already really like Michael Marshall and Stephen King. So perhaps that's it. Perhaps you've got to have an affinity with that writer before you're tempted to read the shorts. It's a weird one. It's like people don't value them as much, and I don't understand why, because a lot of authors will say they find writing short stories much harder, and they're a distinct craft in their own. And I absolutely love short stories. And yet we like things like, on television, everyone loves things like Black Mirror and Inside Number 9 and those kind of shorts that you get in a TV format, which are essentially short stories in TV format, I always think. But don't tend to love it so much in book form. And I honestly don't know why.
You'd have thought this day and age as well, when people are easily distractible and have short attention spans, you'd think they'd fly off the shelves.
Because that's exactly it, isn't it? It's like, when I had my Stephen King short story collection on holiday, and it was great because I could just read a short story and put it down and so on and so forth. And I honestly don't know. I mean, the last collection did pretty well, actually. We're really pleased with how it did, but you're never going to get a bestseller of short stories, I don't think.
Do you prefer writing novels to short stories? Are you just like writing, or do you have a slight secret preference?
I love writing, and I really enjoy the novels when they're finished.
We get so many people saying
I find writing them at some point a painful process, because you've got so much to juggle with a novel. I think it's a big process. Short stories are great because you can just write one and you're done. And then you can just write another one. And they're short and sweet. You've not got to think of millions of subplots and what this character's doing over here and timelines and this and the other. You can just have a crazy idea and wrap it up really quickly. I love, that's why I like writing short stories. They're like a little appetizer compared to this kind of like big feast thing you've got to get through with a novel. In preference, I'm looking forward to doing some shorts after I've finished this novel. But there's a huge feeling of satisfaction in making a book come together. It's a big task. I'm about 2/3 of the way through the current one, and annoyingly, I'm like, oh God, I've still got so much to do. Sometimes I'm getting sort of 300 pages. I can see the end in sight, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a longer book. Oh damn. I've still got a lot of things to work in. Do you still get the hump moment? Last time we spoke to you, you said you get this moment after about 200 pages where you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. It is. 200 is the worst. 200 is nearly always the worst. And I've kind of passed that because I kind of know where it's going. So I'm not that horrible 200-page bit where I'm going, I can't get rid of it. No, this is awful. Why don't I think this is a good idea? But it's still at the stage of like, oh, I've got a lot to bring together and tie up here. There's lots of good stuff in here, but I need to get to the bringing it together bit. And I'm still quite a way off that because I've still got bits to set up. So yeah, it's like, I was thinking about Studio describing it as trying to build a ship while it's actually on the ocean. Like writing a novel. It's quite a good description sometimes. But oh god, it's sinking, oh crap. But yeah, I enjoy the ending of the process each time, which is weird, isn't it? But then I've always got like, and I enjoy the start of the process because every time you have a good idea, you're like, I can't wait to write this idea. This could be brilliant. I have so much fun writing this. This will be so easy. And it never is. And so the beginning of the process and the end of the process are great, and the middle of the process is awful.
Which is why short stories are much better, isn't it? Because those are very much closer together.
Yeah, exactly. You can just rattle through those.
Less middle, yeah. That is beautifully put, that, Tom.
Thank you very much.
That's both funny, but also very incisive.
Which is unusual for me, that I get both at once. Often can be accused of either in isolation.
Just being glib, yeah.
Yeah, but to get both in once, that is
astounding.
Yeah. Well done me.
It reminded me that during the period of us doing this podcast, you've actually started 2 novels. Do you remember doing that?
Yeah.
And you fairly quickly, I think, both times realised that you weren't actually all that interested in finishing them. And I was going to ask you, can you remember what specifically put you off?
Well, do you know, actually, the most annoying thing about that is that I think I still feel like I've got a novel in me. There's still a little itch to scratch in there. But I think what tripped me up, and as this is a recurring theme that needs to be addressed, is the lack of planning, thinking that you can just kind of go into it and float along in it and just write. And even when I've one of them I did kind of plan.
Oh, really?
But I think I've just given myself away there in that phrase. Kind of plan isn't necessarily a concrete plan. And I think I've said a lot recently. This is my next writing challenge for me, is to embrace planning.
Right. Yeah.
And try and not maybe not enjoy it, but appreciate it and do it as a functional part of the process.
Yeah.
Rather than seeing it as some kind of barrier to writing that saps. Oh, that's not right, because it saps the creativity, or it's kind of like it takes away the flourish of free writing.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it stops you from going, oh, I'm 2 chapters in and I don't know what's going to happen. I can't be bothered anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah. But no, I think I still feel like I've got 2 or 3 novels in me.
Yeah. Well, I suspect you have, Tom. I can very much imagine.
I need to find a way for my brain to be able to
enjoy
put it together, really. Yeah.
And like Kaz was saying, it's, Kaz makes the point that it's finishing a book is great. And I was thinking it's a bit like exercise, isn't it? It's like the idea of going to the gym for a workout isn't especially exciting most of the time. But that feeling when you have exercised is really, really great.
Yeah, no, it's halfway through the long run, you're thinking this is cheap. Oh, come on, we could just... Yeah, but once it's done...
it is a really good feeling.
Yeah. That is the kind of analogy that would not make it into the start of this show, John, with your far too clean cut that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Are you firmly stuck in your genre now, do you think? Do you think that's...
Do you know what? I think the last few books have all been slightly different, because I was thinking back to this, because like the first book, The Chalk Man, was kind of like small town murder mystery. It wasn't especially supernatural. Take Vanny Thorn had aspects of supernatural in it, but it was still fairly based in the UK, small town. Other People was thriller-esque with a little bit of supernatural element. They were all very much my UK kind of trilogy. And then, what do we have for book number 4 then? That was The Burning Girls. Again, so I think all of those were very similar in some natures. They were UK set. There were supernatural elements, but overridingly they were kind of murder mysteries. Stroke. The Other People was a little bit more thriller-esque. I think The Drift was the big one where I started to change a bit, because The Drift, again, because I don't like doing the same thing again and again. I was like, I don't want to keep writing the same thing. So The Drift, I deliberately set out to make much more. It was more dystopian, apocalyptic, more horror. It wasn't in the UK. We didn't sort of specify where it was set. It was sort of future. And that was so nice to do something that was completely different. And again, with The Gathering, I was like, let's do vampires. We've stepped out of our comfort zone with The Drift. Let's do vampires in Alaska. That will be fun. So again, it was, I think, a slight change, more of a dip into the horror genre a bit there. And the new book will be different again. It's much more... Well, it's kind of murder mystery, but I'd say it's much more speculative fiction in a way, without giving too much away, because my publishers are probably going to try and sell it as a straight murder mystery to start with.
Let's call it that then.
Yeah.
Is it a kind of a deliberate ploy to set things in America? Do you find that works quite well for an American market?
Not necessarily. I honestly don't think it makes... I think sometimes it can, sometimes it doesn't. There's, the American market is weird. There is this they get it more if it's set in America, because I don't think you can actually classify... Anybody who reads books probably isn't the typical kind of uneducated American that might just see nothing beyond their borders. Not trying to be rude to Americans, but I do see a lot of this on X, which is very disheartening. So there is something that, if it's set in America, it's perhaps easier to grasp and comprehend and more, familiar. But there are books by UK authors set in the UK that do very well in the US. So I don't think it's just that. I mean, The Gathering was set in the US, and I wouldn't say it did any better than any of my other books that were set in the UK. So I don't think it's necessarily that. I know some authors do set out to deliberately, I think, try and get that market and make it very US-centric. And there are some authors that are very clinical, I think, about their approach. They don't just write. They're very clear about they want to achieve this market, and that's why they're going to set it there. And they're very organised on that front. And I'm much more random than that. I just kind of set things where I think they'll be fun.
Well, The Gathering couldn't be anywhere else, really. It's very
it kind of had to be. And I think the new one as well is set in. It is set in America. It's set in Florida, to all intents and purposes, in this, again, quite a strange small town. It's based very much on, it's based completely on the town of Celebration, which is one of Walt Disney's planned neighbourhoods that he had this idea for back in, I think it was the 90s actually, where the Disney Corporation built these towns that would essentially just looked like Disney towns. And the idea was that there were these perfect planned communities with no crime, and it was all beautiful and lovely and everything. And it didn't quite work out like that, although Celebration is still a very desirable place to live. And it looks amazing. It looks like Disney come to life. And to the degree where they even do stuff like fake snow at Christmas. Wow. It's a really strange place. It's really interesting if you read up on it. So I was quite fascinated by this anyway, and I thought, what a great place to set a story. This supposedly crime-free, perfect town created by this kind of slightly strange, mysterious kind of mogul corporation. And there's a lot of fun to be had with that. Yeah. There's never been a murder here, but there's still a surprisingly high mortality rate in this supposedly perfect town.
Of course.
Even though no one's ever been killed, allegedly. So, but a lot of people disappear and accidents. So it seemed a fun place to start, with quite a lot of dark humour involved in it. So that's where we started on that one. And that was just where it needed to be set because of that. So I don't purposely try and court an American readership or anything through setting it in America. It's what the story demands is where the story will be set, and it's as simple as that. It's interesting because again, a lot of my books have been optioned, and the last book, The Gathering, we went straight to America for options. We had a lot of interest in it. I'll tell you, there's the highs and lows again. There was a lot of interest in it. It had about 3 big studios and production companies all wanted it, and this was great and it was lovely, and it was all exciting because it always is when you have these option meetings, even though you know that 99.9% of them will go nowhere, but they paid an awful lot of money for the option, and I was like, oh, this shows they're really serious, and hopefully this will go and everything. And then we heard that this year they've taken it sort of all the major streamers and they can't get a bite, because the market has changed again. Everyone's even more twitchy about lots of things at the moment. So that was hugely disappointing, because I was really hopeful that would go somewhere, although I think they are now talking to different European and UK and so on, but this is the nature of the beast. So that's what I was saying about highs and lows with things. You have to kind of always be prepared for stuff like that to happen, or for a book you love not to sell as much as you really hoped it would. And so much of it is out of your control. And I think that's the hard bit.
It's quite nice when you get far enough up the ladder that the lows are when something doesn't happen but you still get a good big check from it.
Well, this is what I take comfort from.
That's a nicer low.
I've still got the option.
Yeah.
They can't take that money away from me, so it's all good. I did say actually the Chalkman has been under option for it was optioned when it was first published, and it's gone through a number of production companies and different writers and close but no cigars, and it still hasn't got made. But they've probably paid me as much in options now as they would have done if it had got made. Because it's kind of continually been in option with different people, which is a really cynical way of looking at it. But also, we've all got to pay the mortgage and pay our bills. So why not look at it that way?
It is. It's like one secret trick that the production houses hate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just keep it in option land, and that's keeps things ticking over nicely.
It's like you keep on paying me. I am good.
So, John, that question of setting a story somewhere in order to woo a wider audience, like kind of intentionally so, like looking at it and thinking, right, I had set this in Slough, but actually...
Hang on, I set my book in Slough.
I'm going to set it in California instead, or Australia, or somewhere, if you can imagine such a place, John, more exciting than Slough, if you were to pick somewhere.
Nothing springing to mind, Tom.
No. So, do you think I've not really considered that as a thing before, but I think ages ago we talked about the fact, I can't remember who is with, that the location and the setting can be a character
in themselves,
in itself.
Yeah, I think that's right.
As an atmosphere, as a feeling, as a situation, and the time, the period that it's set it in does the same sort of thing.
Yeah. And that can be the sort of the spark or the kicking off point for the story in a way.
Yeah, and often it sets the rules of engagement as well, doesn't it? Depending, if you set it in a particular time period and you go, right, well, there's no phones, there's no cars, it changes the way the world interacts.
Or in fantasy, you kind of invent that world from scratch. Well, like N.K. Jemisin's The City We Became, each borough of New York has an actual literal character as well.
Oh, wow.
I think there's lots of examples of stuff like that. But I think my book as well, that I think the sort of unlocking of that story was basically the fact that I set it in England's poshest private school. That was the sort of starting point in a way. It's like what, and that almost brings the story straight away, or aspects of the story.
No, but it does exactly what I just said before, doesn't it? About giving you those rules and framework and instant cultural knowledge.
So what would be the most desirable place to set a story to attract the largest readership? We're going for numbers here, Tom. We're going for commercial numbers.
So where would you set yours?
Well, you'd go China, wouldn't you?
Oh, you mean so you're just tapping into just for numbers, just for numbers. Forget the language barrier. We're just gonna set it in China.
Yeah, you can translate it in Google. Can't
so I was thinking like maybe the moon or Mars or something.
Oh, that's nice.
And then you've got sort of a neutral starting point there, and you can kind of maybe really blatantly and cheaply just involve lots of different characters from different nations by the nature of space travel, trying to interest people from different cultures to read it.
Oh, that's good.
I'm not sure that's a valid place to start your process of story planning, to be honest. It feels wrong. It feels like the kind of thing you put into an AI to start things rolling, rather than like having an idea about, a character and their struggle.
But then you see your character can come from the location. Like I was talking about my crime book. Once you've set the whole thing in a posh private school, then having one of the detectives be like the most anti-elitist, Tory-hating person, that's your setup, isn't it?
No, I'd say absolutely. You've got it set, haven't you? It's a class struggle. Yeah, you've got that. That's in pen before you even started, isn't it? There's no way around that. Yeah.
Anyway, we should get back to Kaz, shouldn't we?
Let's do that. May as well.
Let's talk about Burning Girls, because that's something that did get made.
It did.
It was really good.
Yes.
Tell you what, Samantha Morton, she's quite a good actor.
I love her. She's so amazing.
She's one of those, just totally effortless actors.
She's so brilliant.
Just commands the screen.
I've met her a couple of times now, but she's so lovely. Really down to earth and really nice. And you see Nottingham Lass. So she's absolutely amazing. She's brilliant. The whole cast were brilliant. They were all so good.
Good. Well, that was my first question. Were you happy with it? I kind of assumed you would be.
I was happy.
But were you involved in the process in any way, or is it kind of a case of you just hand over your baby for someone else to look after, fingers crossed?
You do really hand over your baby. I had some good meetings with the production company before they made it. And that was really good, because they asked lots of really good pertinent questions, and we had good chats about all the characters, and they're very much like, do you mind if we change this? Is this sort of set in stone? But they were really, really lovely and collaborative, and they did sort of say, we will look after it, don't worry, we're not going to ruin your book. And they were very true to their word. They kept it very close. I think, nothing is ever going to be 100%. As a writer, you'll always go, there's a couple of times where I was like, I wish they'd kept perhaps a line in there because it would have clarified that a bit more and such. But that's really niggling, because I know authors whose books have been completely changed. So, I was very lucky, and we got a cracking cast. And they did a really good job. They made it kind of dark and creepy and a bit weird, and Samantha Morton was brilliant. And so was Ruby Stokes, who played Flo. And there are always going to be things you go, that's not quite as I envisaged it. But I think you have to just take that on board a bit. You can't, because I'd love to write a script, but I just think I'd be too literal. And I think, because I just want to take exactly what was on the page, and you can't, because it's completely different. And I always say that TV eats up books as well, because what you've written on the page that can take, I don't know, 30 pages is gone in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's an entirely different process. But I was really lucky. It was amazing. It was really exciting. But again, highs and lows. Really exciting because we went to the sets, which were great and fascinating, because you see how they trick you with like these not real. The church they made wasn't real. It was just three sides to it, nothing at the back, completely fake graveyard. It was amazing. It was brilliant. Apart from I felt like I was just constantly in the way. Sorry. And it was hugely exciting. Yeah, it was really good when we saw it go out. And then it was on Paramount Plus for about 6-7 months and did really well. And then Paramount Plus decided they were taking pretty much all their UK content off their streaming service.
Right.
Like literally things that had only just been made that hadn't even hit air.
Wow.
And then it was like, oh, well, that's disappointing. A few months later, again, the production company were like, yay, we've sold it to Netflix in the UK. Yay! Okay. Which is good, because then more people can see it again. So that was, it's what I say, but constant. This is brilliant. It's amazing. We've got a TV show. Oh, there's no TV show. Oh, there's TV shows everywhere else. So yeah, it's again a little roller coaster. But yeah, it was still really amazing. And to get something made, because it is hard to get stuff made. I think the environment now is even harder to get shows produced just generally, and book adaptations. Lots of books get optioned, and again, getting them greenlit is difficult unless you've got track. I was I was laughing actually. There was and not putting the author down at all, because I love a lot of his work. There was a TV writer, and this is a TV writer who's written quite a lot of successful TV shows and has now written a book. And then I saw something on one of the social media things, and in a kind of faux surprise was going, isn't it amazing that my book is being made into a TV series? It's like, well, not really, mate. I mean, I can kind of see how that might have happened. So the temptation to go, God, if only it was this easy. but I won't, because I might be wanting a blurb at some point, so I won't.
And I guess you don't really have any control of that, do you? Once stuff is being optioned and taken away, you can't affect whether it is going to get made. There's nothing you can really do, is there?
No, it's all in their hands, and the whims of TV executives, because like production companies will tell you, it's like that they can pitch something to one exec at Netflix who's like, I love it, we're going to make it, this is all amazing, and blah 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 blah, and then literally the next week that exec will be gone and someone else will come in and they hate it. So
we're doing things differently. Oh, brilliant, great.
Yeah. No, we don't love that anymore, we love this now.
Yeah, you're so reliant on so many people, aren't you?
And TV is really random. It's even more risk of it. It's amazing anything gets made sometimes, I think, with TV, because of the different layers of idiocy.
And everyone's got to love it.
Yeah. And then it's quite sad in a way, isn't it? Because you see it, the cycle continues over and over again, where someone somewhere will stick the neck out and make something a bit different.
Yes.
That then goes huge and is massive. And then they all just chase after that as if that's the only thing
this is it, isn't it?
Could ever be successful.
It's like the reason I was successful was because it was different and original, and that's why it was successful.
But they try and redo it. To make a second and a third series and milk it for everything it's worth.
Yeah.
Until someone else does something daring and original and goes, oh, no, that's it. Let's do that. Everyone do that. Quick, option all the books that are anything like that. And then do nothing with them for years.
I mean, it happens in book world, because, I mean...
completely.
It drives me mad seeing the same books kind of churned out again and again. There's obviously the cosy crime thing is big at the moment. And, you just see constantly these books that just look like carbon copies of Richard Osman books, essentially. That's sex, because we know he kind of pioneered the whole cosy crime thing, like his stuff. But then you see so many books with these similar covers now.
Yes.
It's like a quirky little murder at the antique shop.
Yes.
At the bakery. It's just
that's exactly what I was going to say. It was murder at the hairdresser's.
It's like, oh, God, stop it.
What if it was investigated by a group of elderly people?
Yeah. A group of elderly people. A group, Women's Institute. Oh, God, please, stop it.
When the local crochet club. Oh, right, here we go. That'll never go anywhere. Oh, it's been written by a celebrity. It'll be fine.
But has it been written by a celebrity? There you go.
That's an entirely
again, that's a huge bugbear, isn't it? And it sounds like, again, I'm being cynical. But I don't quite get it. But of course, these books must sell, which is otherwise they wouldn't publish them. But you've got these two contrary things in publishing. On one, like people getting hugely excited by this hot new debut and this original new thing, yet on the other hand, churning out books that just copied the last thing that was successful. Which is just a bit, oh God, come on, people. I think, of course, you kind of understand to an extent, but there's like with everything, there's a point where you jump the shark on this stuff, isn't there? Where it's like, Jesus Christ, not more of these cozy. What's the next thing going to be?
Yeah. Murder at the farmer's market, bodies in the potatoes, death on the red carpet, or a killer at Waitrose, slaughter at a ski resort, set it in the 80s, a book where the detectives are all lovely chubby lollipop ladies.
There's elements of frustration in there, isn't there? Well, there is, and it's kind of nice to know it's not just us struggling writers who get irritated by, all the popular, sort of not easy to publish, but you know what I mean? The kind of those books we just talked about where just kind of
the standard, we're going to do this genre because it's popular.
Look, another one of these. Yeah, this is a thing at the minute. Quick, pile them all in. Doesn't really matter if they're any good. Let's just get them out. Yeah, it is a bit frustrating. Although I did think it was funny there's a bit in the next clip where I think Kaz sort of suddenly realises that it's actually possible, because she doesn't know that much about it, that you might have written a cosy mystery book.
I think it's really interesting that some people just absolutely know what they like, and that is what they'll read,
and
or that is what they'll watch. And I because I've never been like that, I can't really imagine just reading one kind of book. I don't know, but presumably most people are like that, because that seems to be... I think
they are. But you're also, publishers to a degree and bookshops are telling people what they like. Because the reason, to take inside the quality of the reason that Richard Osman sells so many books isn't just because of the books. It's because he's Richard Osman off the telly. Yeah. And people go, oh, it's that nice Richard Osman off the telly, and he's written a book, and he's on the telly talking about his books to millions of viewers. And then Waterstones go, oh, it's that nice Richard Osman off the telly, we'll put his book in the window. And then he sells lots of books, and then they go, we'll put his book in the window again. And it's something that, as a normal author, obviously you don't have that same level of visibility and people knowing you and people buying into a brand, essentially, of the person, which you get with a celebrity author. And so anything to a degree that's successful isn't just because people go, I've read that and I like it and I want to read more of the same. I think, you are telling people to like something by putting it in front of them. It's like, you like this, you'll like this, look at this is something you should read. There might be a load of other books you would like to read, but you'll never find them or see them. They're not being put in your face, which again, comes down to what publishers and bookshops and everything, but it comes down to the money behind promoting something, which is, what it always will do.
Kaz, Tom and I are stepping into the querying trenches in this series of the podcast.
Are you indeed? And what's you querying with? What's the...
Mine is a crime novel, and Tom is writing some middle grade, children's books.
Okay, and that's a tough market as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we've chosen the really tough
stuff. You really have.
Yeah.
You both chosen the hardest markets.
Hey, why not go high or go high?
You're going to tell me it's like a cosy mystery now, aren't you? I'm going to go, oh no.
That's exactly, it is, actually, Yeah, it's a donut shop. But no, I was just interested to know, this was obviously quite a long time ago, so you may not remember, but when you were querying, you didn't query, actually thinking about it, you didn't query the Chalkman, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, it was the Chalkman?
I had a weird sort of past on it. Like, I'd been writing for ages, and then for ages I couldn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And then I did get an agent with a book. This is 7 years before the Chalkman. Yeah. It's a different book entirely.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and then that didn't work out with that agent. We never got near a publisher. We just couldn't agree on what I should be writing, essentially. And then it was quite a while before I wrote the Chalkman. And then when I sent that out, I didn't send that out to many people, actually. I think I only sent it out to about 3 or 4 agents to start with. I said I wasn't going to do like a big query. I was quite selective. I had like a favourite one, a couple of other agents, and one kind of wild card to start with.
To see what the feedback would be to begin with?
Yeah, well, I was fully expecting to be rejected because I'd been rejected so many times before. It was kind of my natural state by this point. I was like, I'm pretty sure I'll get rejected. 1, I don't think I've bothered getting back to me. Can't remember which one that was. 2, rejected it. I think did one say I can't remember, one suggested they wanted some changes and would have reread it. And then the agent I really wanted, which was Maddie, really liked it. But again, had suggestions. and they wanted me to kind of rewrite, and theirs was the most detailed, sort of enthusiastic response. And they wanted me to rewrite kind of the final act, and they were absolutely right. And they were like, if you'd consider doing this, we would be really kind of excited about taking this on. And I was like, well, of course I will. Of course I'll do this.
What do I need to do?
Yeah, I did. I went away for like 3 months. And rewrote the end. Well, not quite the end ending, but a big portion of that. The killer changed completely, and they were right. It was the weakest part. I hadn't quite nailed the ending, and then I went back, and then she took me on, and very quickly we did more editing on it, and then very quickly we went out on submission, and then it all went a bit nuts, which was amazing. But yeah, it was fortunate. I think Maddie was kind of my first choice, and I was very lucky to get her. I can count myself very lucky since I've got her. But still, out of 5 agents, 4 were essentially a no. And Maddie, so it wasn't like I had loads of agents fighting over me. You hear this sound going, I've got about 3 or 4 agents have asked for a full manuscript. So, but went on to be successful. So it's such a random process. I mean, maybe if I'd submitted to more agents, more would have been interested. But because Maddie was in my first row, I didn't really care.
I thought you were going to say maybe if I'd submitted to more agents, I'd have a lot more rejections and still just the one. Yes.
Yeah, I probably would just have had a lot more rejections because you just don't know. Because again, different agents look for different things and da 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 da. So you just don't know.
Did Maddie ever tell you what it was that clinched it? Was there something about the query itself?
I think your query was, obviously how you query. I can't really remember exactly how I queried now, but I kept it quite. I've always quite liked writing blurbs. That comes to being a copywriter. So I think writing a good synopsis blurb is always very good. If you can kind of encapsulate your book in one page and kind of give a good payoff to that, I think that's quite useful. Yeah. Also, it's weird. I think a good agent sometimes kind of knows what's on the cusp of being the next trend. They've got their kind of finger on the pulse of what publishers are going to be looking for. And it was funny that a lot of publishers came back to me because it was just after Stranger Things had been out? It'd been out in the US, I think. I'm not sure if it had come to the UK at that point. So that whole 80s, Gangs of Kids, slightly supernatural, was fresh in people's minds because that had been a surprise sort of success. And a lot of publishers said, this is what we're looking at. This is set in the 80s. It's got Gangs of Kids. It's a bit Stephen King-esque. And I think that was probably it. She was like, oh, hang on a second. I could see this will fit the bill. This is what I said. It's so much about luck and timing because it's knowing what people will be looking for at that time you submit something. But I think a good agent will kind of know if they've got something that they're going to be able to sell. Yeah. So, the agent is always the key. Have you been doing the old Writers and Artists yearbook and studying agent forms and various things? And
we're not quite at that stage yet, but that's kind of the next bit, I guess, is to really get to know the agent.
It is, because that's what really counts. It's so vital, the right agent for your book. So, but it is random because, again, it could be the right agent, but for some reason they're just not looking for that particular type of book at that time. Yeah, I spoke to a publisher who said, I'm so really encouraging, aren't I? This publisher who said to me that they turned down loads of brilliant authors just because it just doesn't fit what they are publishing at that moment, or it's too much like another author's, or another publisher has one coming out. It's also random. But, if you hit the sweet spot, it's great. And, I'm a believer in that. I think, good books and good authors do get published. I mean, a lot of terrible books get published as well, which I've
that's great. That's
the encouragement we need.
That's good to hear.
That's more like it. So there is a chance.
Great. Yeah. I wasn't saying that. I was saying yours will be good books, but I'm always amazed. I'm always amazed by sometimes you go, how the hell did this get published? I have no idea. Yeah. Because it is such a tough process to get published. It's staggering sometimes, but there you go.
So it's bloody luck and timing again, isn't it?
The old story, yeah. And you need both of them as well.
Yeah, you do. It'd be a lovely world, though, wouldn't it, if agents took you on just entirely based on the merit of your ability to write. If they took you on as a long-term project, I appreciate why that wouldn't actually work as a business plan. But you can't deny it would be quite nice.
It would be, yeah, if there was some...
And maybe there'd be more good books. I don't know. Maybe not. But there'd be loads of good books, but no one would want to read them, maybe. Well,
but then you go back all into this loop of what is that a good book then?
Yeah.
No one wants to read it.
Or people will read it if you tell them it's good as well. That's the other thing.
If you get the right kind of cover on them, make it look like a cozy mystery.
Well, you tell people what they like. You put it in the window of bookshops. So
if you pile it up high enough.
Yeah, it's kind of true, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all, There's no satisfactory answer to that one, is there?
There isn't really.
It's all a little bit sad inside.
Yeah, but you cannot. The awful thing is you can absolutely understand why it happens. It sort of has to work like that, doesn't it?
But the other side of that coin, John, as we said with Kaz there, is it gives us all hope. If rubbish books can get published, then it's a level playing field. It is just, you know.
I thought you were talking about Kaz's books.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to say it while she was here. And yes, best-selling this, best-selling that, Netflix series. But what's that really mean, John? What does that really mean? Can she write?
She just got lucky.
Like we said, she's just been dead lucky. So, yeah. But no, yeah.
She hasn't. She's an exceptional writer.
It gives a level playing field, doesn't it? It's not, your book doesn't have to be the best book ever. Because I think that's where I get tripped up sometimes, is that I'm far too perfectionist in terms of...
Well, it's got to be the best version of the book that you can write of that particular thing. It is different.
And that's different, isn't it, to thinking I've got to write the best ever book. Because that's tricky. That's a tricky ask. Isn't it?
It's quite difficult.
Even for us, that is a tricky ask.
Yeah. And it's also quite difficult to pinpoint what that actually means.
Well, again, going back to that, what does that mean? More sales or...
Yeah.
So yet again, we've come to the end of an episode with not much of a conclusion about anything, really. But
not really.
I feel like it's been a nice journey to get there, hasn't it?
Yeah. I've got one last thing, which is all to do with what we've been talking about. I read one of our listeners' books recently. And they've got a similar issue.
Oh yeah, which one?
David Lucas.
Oh yeah.
Who spent a while querying his book, Kicking the Embers.
Yeah.
And again, because it's not obvious commercial fiction, and it's the kind of thing that I suspect agents looked at and went, that sounds quite difficult to sell.
Yeah, kind of. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I can see but I'm not sure we could shift the numbers.
Interesting idea. What is it? Yeah, what is it? So he self-published it instead. But I really liked it, and I would actually recommend it. It's very intriguing and original, and it's very clever, well-written. A tiny bit of background. It's the story of a New York kind of hipster writer who's had a bit of success, but is now floundering.
What, are you saying he just set it in New York just to get readers? Is that what
That's it, yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's a big place, isn't it?
Right, okay.
Loads of New Yorkers. So his writing career is floundering a little bit. And then this old Vietnamese communist makes him an offer of quite a lot of money to write his memoirs. And this all takes place during the financial crisis, 2008. But what I really liked about it is it was brilliant at sort of upending all of the assumptions that we make about our worldview and how we kind of know we're right about our way of life. But yeah, it just puts a big question mark over everything in a really quite sort of shivery way. It was excellent, I would say. And I'm going to leave a link to Kicking the Embers in the show notes if anyone fancies a read.
So that's Kicking the Embers by David Lucas.
Right, Tommy, my little sausage. Let's wrap it up now by saying, remember to be kind. Post a little review online. And if you do post a little review online...
Oh, yeah, you get entered into the slightly illegal, possibly competition.
Illegal lottery. You can win some hot merch. So definitely do that. And I think that might be it, Tom. I've got nothing else. Have you got anything else?
No, I am empty like a barrel that has been emptied, but not necessarily a barrel. It could also be a bucket or a cup. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Hello? Where's everybody gone?